What you want after this club? You know I get nasty. Uber out of my house, you call a taxi. I'm picky with my women, I'm just sliding. Call me to your pivot, I'm sliding. I'm picky with my women, I'm deciding. Call me to your pivot, I'm sliding. First things first, let me get that introduction. We on the long road to self-destruction. You so in love, you wanna tell me nothing. Let me get this clear, cause I had no idea. First, let me get that
again.
Beat it up like.
First, beat it up like. I'm beating with my beat it up like. I'm just beat it up like. First things first, let me get that introduction. We on the long road to self-destruction. You so in love, you wanna tell me nothing. Let me get this clear, cause I had no idea. First, let me get that I'm playing with my beat, I'm just
And welcome to AATB Draft Talk on a new night. Technical difficulties last night. I am happy to be joined by our AATbirds writer, Adam Mack. Very happy to you can join us. We're going to talk Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft that he released earlier this week. There's a lot of things with that, and something that ties into an article that you wrote for the website. So definitely going to be an interesting episode here. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Super excited. Super excited to write for you guys and have the opportunity to come on the show.
So, talking about Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, I'm going to run down the picks. First pick, of course, is no brainer. Trevor Lawrence. That's kind of a, for me, it's absolute no brainer. You watch the pro day that he had with Urban Meyer, just like super close, like front seat for them to watch. So. I don't think he goes anywhere different. So that's a no-brainer. And then, second pick, he went to Jets with Zach Wilson from BYU. That's a weird area. And my co-host Tommy and I, we always, talk about this because where do they go? And it's interesting that he put quarterback here because there's so much talk about Sam Darnold and how, talking about trading him. What are your thoughts on the Zach Wilson to the Jets that Jeremiah mocked there?
Definitely, when it comes time for the draft, this second pick is going to determine the flow and how the draft's going to go. This is going to let you know if quarterbacks are going to come off quickly or if you could see a quarterback drop out of the top 10. This is how important and crazy this draft is going to get super early on. I'm actually not thrilled with the pick. Putting Zach Wilson to second. I don't think he's the second best quarterback. My top quarterback right below Lawrence is actually Justin Fields from Ohio State. I've kind of seen from previous years, you have a quarterback, a new GM, a new head coach. Joe Douglas has only been there for a year or two. They have a new head coach. Yeah, Sam Darnold was horrendous with the Adam Gase scenario. I think the best thing for him and for the franchise is to part ways. I think he's an excellent quarterback, but I definitely think the Jets have to go quarterback here. Just the best thing for the franchise. But I really think they're going to go Justin Fields over Zach Wilson.
So that's interesting because, you're looking at the next two picks for Jeremiah, he has Miami taking Jamar Chase from LSU. So he has Miami going the receiver there, picking Jamar Chase, which is an interesting pick. And then with number 4, which was a little surprising to me, he picked for Atlanta, he picked quarterback Justin Fields for Ohio State, which you just mentioned how he's your second-rated quarterback. So, you know, with those two selections, now Jamar Chase gives another weapon for Tua. You know, one of the best players on the board. So that I can see that. I could see him going early. I can also see a player later in the draft that Jeremiah has. I haven't seen him this low in any mock draft. Devontae Smith. I can see him going that spot too. But Jamar Chase, you know what he did. We talked about it. But the Justin Fields pick to Atlanta seems a little interesting.
I'm not a huge fan of it. I truly don't think Atlanta's going quarterback here. I think Matt Ryan still has a little bit left in his tank. And I think Dickerson should, at least for next year or two, really invest in him, really invest in the team, and try to make one more run at it. You know, he's a very, very good quarterback. You have Julio Jones, who's a generational wide receiver. If they can build around their defense, I think I saw a stat at one point this season. If they were to end the game after the third quarter, they would be 11-5 and be in the playoffs. Their defense was horrendous. I think you take a defensive player, take Micah Parsons, Surtain, Farley, someone to booster that defense here. Don't give up on Matt Ryan right now. He's too good right now. He has a little bit left in his tank. You know, I'm shocked if they will go quarterback here.
And there's a lot of money tied to him as well. So you have a huge financial responsibility there with Matt Ryan. And like you said, like the offense, they still have pieces. You still have Calvin Ridley. You still have Julio Jones, you know, Hayden Hurst. You have, you know, players. And that division, I'm not going to say it's up in the air. I know Tom Brady and everything with Tampa. But New Orleans, you know, Drew Brees is retiring. Carolina, what is Carolina? So there's a lot of potential there with Atlanta. Then the next two picks, Cincinnati, Penei Sewell, which, you know, get Joe Burrow some protection.
Right.
The best offensive tackle in the draft. So for Cincinnati, it gets for them, it fixes something. And I know I've talked about it. It gives you where, you know, you did draft Jonah Williams, but is he a guard? Is he a right tackle? There's a lot, you know, with him. I don't think he fits on the, you know, outside, protecting the blind side. But like Penei Sewell, I think Cincinnati, I know people have mocked Cincinnati with receivers, but, you know, in DJ's mock here, Penei Sewell really makes a lot of sense just because of the protection aspect of your franchise quarterback you drafted last year at number 1.
Right. I mean, you need to protect Joe Burrow. The wide receivers are going to be useless if he has no time to throw to him. If he's getting hit every play, he's proven that he can play. Protect him at all costs. He's already had a very serious injury his rookie season. It's going to definitely hurt his mobility going forward. Protect him at all costs. Give him time in the pocket to throw to his receivers. Give T. Higgins a little bit more time. Give A.J. Green a couple more years. Protect Joe Burrow. This has to be the easy pick for him. I'd be surprised if they go any other route.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next pick, we have, of course, the Eagles, which we're going to get into. I don't want to get too into it right now, but Daniel Jeremiah has the Eagles picking Kyle Pitts from Florida. I know it says tight end, but let's just face it, he's a playmaker. You can, you know, throw that tight end and just make it athlete. So we'll get into that pick after we run down this mock and go over a little bit there, just kind of, you know, really dig into the Kyle Pitts aspect of it. But then after that, Detroit Lions, he has him picking Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State. One of our other writers, and Jason Sullivan, who always tunes in, is a big Lions guy. I don't know if I want to call him a fan. I know he may, you know, get a little upset if I call him a super fan just because of the way Detroit has, you know, portrayed their teams recently. But Micah Parsons, Penn State. So I thought this was a little interesting, but then I, you know, thought about it, and one superb playmaker on defense. Can do anything that you ask him to do on defense. I know they had Gerard Davis, who hasn't lived up to what they thought when they drafted him out of Syracuse, and I know edge rusher is something that Detroit needs, but I feel like it's a little bit of a reach to go this high to pick an edge rusher. So Micah Parsons, I think it checks a lot of boxes, and it's very interesting that DJ has him, this high up in the draft, especially with everything that came out. Which, if it's true, if it's not true, but just feel like his stock's going to drop a tiny bit. But for him to go at number 7 seems to be that it's not dropping all that much.
No, I think he's an excellent pick for him. Like you pointed out, he checks a lot of different boxes. He was originally recruited to Penn State as a defensive end, so he has experience. Obviously high school offensive linemen and NFL offensive linemen are two different breeds of people. He, like you said, checks a lot of boxes. He can drop back, and as a linebacker, he can rush the passer. As quick off the ball as anybody in this draft. There's always the issues of his off-the-field issues, his character issues that could see him fall. But if you only have him drop in the 7, how bad the stuff is it really going to be? We're a few more months away from the draft. Was Tom Sewell a couple of years ago with the gas mask the day of the draft?
Yeah.
I mean, anything can happen between now and then. So, but if the Lions can get him at 7, if they overlook the character issues, I mean, they're getting a steal for him at 7.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to run down next few picks, Carolina, he has him choosing Trey Lance out of North Dakota State, the quarterback. Denver, cornerback Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. Dallas, cornerback Patrick Surtain, the second out of Bama. And then the Giants, he has him picking Greg Rousseau out of Miami. So what's interesting is you still don't see Jalen Waddle. You still don't see Devontae Smith in those crop. Now, I know Carolina with the quarterback, they have quarterback questions this offseason. The 2 cornerbacks go off the board with Denver, since there really isn't a quarterback there for them to take, and Dallas, which is, I know you've mentioned it about, you talked about the CeeDee Lamb aspect. They need a corner. Last year they got Trevon Diggs in the 2nd, but something that was too good to pass up, and Surtain is that, and the Giants getting a pass rusher. But out of those 4 picks, who's kind of the one that basically caught your eyes there?
It's definitely, I think, Dallas taking Patrick Surtain. It's Jerry Jones. I'd be shocked. I don't think they're holding on to this pick. I actually think they're going to trade back a little bit because they don't have a huge need at cornerback. They have a real big need at the defensive line. I think they have an opportunity to trade back, get some capital, which they are missing, and probably still have an opportunity to get Rawasu or even a linebacker, bunch of different picks. But it's also Jerry Jones. He could trade up to the 2nd pick to draft Patrick Surtain again. The 2nd pick. You can never really doubt Jerry Jones sometimes, but they have such a big need on both the offensive and defensive line that if Jerry Jones is smart, he needs to address early.
Yeah, I don't think Dallas will pick a receiver. I know everyone was kind of like, well, what happens if they go ahead and they just pick a receiver again? They trade one of the other receivers. I said, oh, you're just
Jerry Jones. Don't hold it against him.
But it could happen if he likes someone there. Someone drops to him. You never know. Which for Dallas, I'm as an Eagles fan, it's not. I try not to think about the players that they select just because I'm not a fan of Dallas. But then the next group of picks I think there's one of the most interesting group of picks that I'm going to say in this, Daniel Jeremiah mock draft, which we're breaking down. San Francisco, Rashawn Slater at Northwestern, offensive tackle. Then the Chargers, wide receiver Jalen Waddle, Alabama. And then Minnesota, wide receiver Devontae Smith out of Alabama. And then New England, cornerback J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. So I'm going to throw it to you because you mentioned it before we came on about the Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, and, the Minnesota aspect of it. Go ahead.
I honestly don't believe either team between the Chargers or the Vikings are taking a wide receiver right here. the Chargers, have some pretty good wide receivers and not pretty good like weapons for Justin Herbert. I just don't think they're going to address it right now with some other bigger needs, especially at offensive tackle. But if Slater is off the board, maybe they pull the trigger to get Justin Herbert some more weapons. So it's not crazy. I think if Slater's there, you have to pick him up. Same thing as what happened in Cincinnati. Protect Herbert at all costs. Can't afford to get your new prized possession hurt early on in his career. But the Minnesota Vikings taking Devontae Smith makes zero sense to me. Adam Thielen is still there in the middle of his prime. Justin Jefferson had the best season as a rookie wide receiver ever, breaking the all-time great in Randy Moss. They have such big needs on defense. I get Devontae Smith is there and Heisman Trophy winner, but don't get fooled by that. Just because he won the Heisman Trophy doesn't mean he's a guaranteed star in the NFL. Ask the Cleveland Browns and Johnny Manziel. I think I see Devontae Smith possibly dropping in this draft to the right team. Minnesota's not the right team. They have too many needs on defense. If they want to make a run to the Super Bowl, you got to take players that are going to help you, not fix problems that aren't there.
Exactly. But it's interesting because it lines up pretty well. And after that, Arizona offensive lineman Elijah Vera Tucker, who I see him more possibly as an interior guy. I know he played outside. Vegas defensive end Kwity Paye. Miami, which this is the surprising aspect, running back Najee Harris out of Bama. And then Washington offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw. What in those picks? I know we talked about the Najee Harris. What in those picks kind of popped out to you?
So I think it's Washington taking Christian Darrisaw. Again, they have need at quarterback. Love Alex Smith. The injury factor is always going to be there for him for the rest of his career. That pick shows me that if Washington doesn't take Mac Jones here, or if one of the other quarterbacks doesn't fall, they pick somebody up in free agency.
Yeah.
So Sam Darnold, Trubisky, maybe even Nick Foles, Jacoby Brissett. Washington has an opportunity, especially in the NFC East division that's not very good, to make a run in the playoffs. Get the right quarterback, get a veteran quarterback. That pick right there kind of shows they're getting a veteran. They've gotten a veteran quarterback at this point.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the Miami pick quick. Like the Najee Harris, like Miami has more need. I understand running back is a need for them, but I feel like if Najee Harris I think he can get past the first round into the early second round. But for Miami, they could always trade up in the second round and get him. I feel like picking him at that spot is just too high, I feel, for a running back.
Right.
And I know the whole running back aspect, and you don't see many go super high, but Najee Harris going that high, I thought was a little interesting. That's just my take on it.
Right.
But
no, I totally see. I mean, he's a great player, but he's not worth going 18th overall. And one of my early mocks, I had him going 18th overall, and just the more flow of it, he's going to be available early to middle second round. Other running backs, if he's taken off the board by the time Miami picks, it's a stretch to take him at the 18th pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. Then the next couple of picks, Chicago wide receiver Kedarius Tony, who's raising up a lot of boards, especially with the Senior Bowl performance and everything and what he can do. Indianapolis cornerback Greg Newsome II from Northwestern. The Jets defensive end Ronnie Perkins, Oklahoma. And then Pittsburgh offensive tackle Jalen Mayfield, Michigan. So the one pick that was surprising here for me, which it's not a surprise in the fact of the guy's getting a little more cred, is Ronnie Perkins from Oklahoma. He's starting to raise up a lot of boards. I know maybe it was even a month ago or so. He was mocked like in the third round, and he wasn't really getting much. But if you put the tape on and you watch him and you see what he can do, that's a pick that the Jets desperately need. They need pass rush help. Pass rush help, like a lot of pass rush help. It was evident last year watching that defense, but that pick was a little interesting. And I know Tom, he said on he liked seeing Perkins up because he's high on Perkins. So that was something that we talked about this pick. But what are your feeling on those couple of selections there?
No, that pick by the Jets that's phenomenal for them. Their defensive line was not good last season. They're getting a solid pass rusher in Perkins, who's done good things at Oklahoma. Hopefully, by then they have a new offensive weapon. If it's a quarterback, a wide receiver, now they got to really focus on their defense. I really love that pick. The pick that kind of surprised me and stuck out to me was Kedarius Tony from Florida. I know his stock has been on the rise since the Senior Bowl. He played phenomenal. I'm just really shocked that they go with him over Rashad Bateman of Minnesota. Bateman, in my opinion, is better than Waddle, in my opinion. Just the way I saw him play, just some of the stats I've been watching. I think he's going to have a better career than Waddle. Could even put same thing about Devontae Smith. If you had the opportunity at 20 to pick him up, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
in my opinion, but who knows with the Bears sometimes.
Yeah. No, but that's the one interesting thing, about this mock draft was Rashad Bateman's not even in it in the first round, which was very surprising, especially when we get to the next few picks, which, are some teams that need receiver help. So we got Jacksonville, linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Cleveland defensive end Joe Tryon, Baltimore safety Trevon Moehrig, and New Orleans quarterback Mac Jones. So I know I told you before we started that Mac Jones was interesting because it's the passing, I don't want to say passing the torch, but the turning of the tide in terms of Drew Brees retiring. And then, you have Taysom Hill, but what is Taysom Hill? We kind of saw it a little bit last year. I know Jameis Winston may come back, everything like that, but New Orleans needs to go and they need to get a quarterback. They need to build something, they tried the last few years of trying to win now with Drew Brees, and it just didn't work. But that was the one that was super interesting, and when looking at it and seeing that New Orleans, and that was the headline in his mock draft was, New Orleans gets their quarterback. So, but for me, that was the interesting one.
I definitely can see, even if the Saints re-sign Jameis Winston, they're still going quarterback. Winston's a really good quarterback. I don't think he's a long-term option for New Orleans, though. Have the opportunity, kind of what the Packers did, just, their all-time great quarterback is no longer there. But get the quarterback of the future, have him sit for a year or two behind Winston, get ready, and then once it's time, take over for Winston. The one pick that really stuck out to me was 25 for Jacksonville. I get they have a need at linebacker. His logic was, Urban Meyer loves speed on defense, and you don't get anyone quicker on defense other than him. But I really think the first round is going to be really focused on getting Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence some new weapons. I know DJ Chark's there, James Robinson is there. Not great, but we can improve. I think they're going to take Freiermuth, the tight end from Penn State. Again, get Trevor Lawrence some more weapons. Just set him up for success in his rookie season.
I agree with that. I understand the whole speed aspect and everything. Makes sense, but when there's a player on the board, you need to build that offense. You need to build around your quarterback. You have some pieces in place, but Freiermuth, I know he gets like the baby Gronk and the the comparisons. As a Penn State fan, I watched him play a lot. I saw what he could do, and he was outrageous out there. He could do so many things, and his size is such a mismatch for defenders. So I could see that being an interesting pick. Now to round out the draft, Green Bay tackled Trevin Jenkins, Oklahoma State. Buffalo edge rusher Azeez Ojulari from Georgia. Kansas City center Landon Dickerson from Bama, and then Tampa Bay picking a linebacker Nick Bolton from Missouri. So for me, is like I mentioned before, Green Bay not going with a weapon. A Rashad Bateman is sitting out there. Now I understand the aspect of the receiver class is pretty deep, but when there's a guy on the board that is there for the taking, and you need more weapons for your quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, you got to take them. I understand the offensive tackle. I understand that. But you have to take basically the best receiver available at that point, which is Bateman. A mismatch. He would fit well in that offense. And to me, that was a little surprising. The others were kind of almost like, fitting because it made sense. But that one was the biggest one, how Bateman seemed to elude, even a team like Baltimore. He seemed to elude Baltimore, seemed to elude the Packers, and he's left off the first round.
No, totally. Again, Bateman, I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't go day one. Teams are going to regret if they don't go day one, especially the Packers. We all know that they just don't like drafting help for Aaron Rodgers, and he has to go win MVP awards on his own for some reason. So, I get, got to protect him. He's old, doesn't have that many years left. But got to buy into him. You need to get him some more weapons. Focus on tackling in free agency. The one pick that really kind of shocked me, actually, was Landon Dickerson, the center from Alabama, going to the Chiefs. Dickerson, is recovering from an ACL injury. I don't think he's going to be ready by the time the season starts. Especially if they rush him back, which NFL teams and players love to just rush back after injuries. ACL injuries are no joke. I think Dickerson's going to work best in a team that's rebuilding. My example in mock drafts I've done, I want the Eagles to take him. Jason Kelce's not getting much any younger. He's been contemplating retirement for the last couple years. Draft Landon Dickerson, have him sit behind Kelce for a season, let him get fully healthy for a year. Kelce retires, insert Landon Dickerson. I get he's definitely worth being taken 31st overall. He's one of, if not the best offensive lineman in this draft, but he has an ACL tear in his leg. And again, it's no joke, especially for a lineman whose legs are what makes and breaks a player. I cannot see a team taking him in the first round. I won't be shocked if he drops to day 3 just because his health issues. Again, he'll be a steal no matter where you get him. But at what cost? The Chiefs are in a win-now scenario. And he's not going to play for the first year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and for KC, it's basically it's best player available. That's who you pick at that spot. But round out, we went over a little bit Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. But the reason that we want to, we broke this down and have you on, Adam, is Kyle Pitts to the Eagles. So you
Great
wrote an
pick.
article.
We'll just start that.
Exactly. So there's a lot of people all over, the internet and everything talking about this. And the one thing that they seem to be focused on is
I know where you're going with this. I know exactly where you're going with this.
Kyle Pitts, a tight end. You can't pick a tight end at 6. You can't do that. And the thing is, I understand it says tight end, but if you watch him play, it's not a prototypical
He's a wide receiver.
Exactly. He's not like a Dallas Goedert or, he's not that prototypical tight end. He can line up anywhere. And it's evident. And the thing is, the Eagles quarterback coach was Florida's offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of familiarity there. And for me, it's if Jamar Chase is gone, then I'm like, okay, take Pitts. I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. But my biggest thing is if Chase and Pitts are both there, that's where you kind of like, oh, who
right.
you pick? And I don't want it to be the comparison of how it was Jefferson Rager last year, but Pitts is just unbelievable. I'm going to let you kind of take the stage and give your points, about the article you wrote, aatbirds.com. If you haven't read it yet, check it out. It's absolutely great. And if you want to go ahead, break it down a little.
Yeah, I guess same thing. I'll start with the one thing I actually didn't mention in my article is what if Jamar Chase is there? That is a nightmare scenario. My head, just because Howie Roseman has to make a decision, And I don't want Howie Roseman making any tough decisions. I want the obvious pick to be there. I know he's not going to go with the obvious pick because we saw that last year. But, again, they are two different players, but are both, the top player at their position. I think the Eagles should go Jamar Chase over Kyle Pitts in some scenarios. But when you kind of break down both players at the same point, I think Kyle Pitts has the edge. If the Eagles pick Pitts over Chase, I'm not going to sit here and say Howie Roseman should be fired. If Chase goes over Pitts, I'm not going to say Howie Roseman should get fired. I'm going to say Howie Roseman should get fired no matter what. But I think Kyle Pitts is just as good as Jamar Chase. Kind of like what you said. Oh, he's a tight end. Take the T and E away from his name next time. Just take because it says Kyle Pitts TE. Just erase that and put WR, and no one will complain. Not a single person. So, a couple different points I brought up in the article is the first one, Kyle Pitts is an instant upgrade to every single wide receiver on our team. Immediately. Especially now that Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey are gone. Rieger, battled injuries last year. Still has a lot of growing pains. I think Pitts walks into the Eagles locker room first day of training camp and immediately is better than Rieger. Just from what I've seen on his film. Again, everyone was like, oh, he's a tight end. He only caught the ball 43 times, only had 12 touchdowns. Devontae Smith had 23. Look who Kyle Pitts' quarterback was. Kyle Trask was horrible. I watched a lot of film on Pitts. Pitts would double his numbers if he had Mac Jones as his quarterback. So, I get there's always that narrative, but Kyle Pitts would walk into the Eagles locker room day one and be an instant upgrade. So I know there's talk that we need to take a defensive player. That was a lot of the people were telling me we have to focus on our defense. We need to focus on our playmakers. Kyle Pitts is the best playmaker in this draft. Take advantage of it. The other thing, go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. Playmaker. You want to get. How many fans have been asking for, we want a playmaking receiver. We want someone, and it's just like, oh, they ask for it. And then when you give them something, they're like, well, it says tight end. I don't want that. And they're not actually fully looking at what he can do and what he has done the last couple of years. Plus, he's a Philly native, so that's another cool thing. Little cool tidbit there.
Yeah, that was actually one of my other points was Kyle Pitts will be a hometown hero. Is one thing I've noticed about Philly fans. We love our hometown players, even if they're not playing for Philly. Look at Mike Trout anytime he plays in Philadelphia. He gets a standing ovation. He plays on the other side of the country, will never play a single play for the Phillies, but everybody loves him. Yeah. Imagine what that would be like if a player from Philadelphia, he won 2 state championships in high school for Archbishop Wood. Imagine if he comes back to Philadelphia, helps the Eagles win a Super Bowl. What great story that would be. I mean, same thing. If we have 2 players who are equal caliber players, one's from the city, the fans are going to buy into it. Everyone knows that Howie Roseman has lost all trust in Eagles fan base. This is a great way to try to get back that trust, is getting a player that they're familiar with, they all love. He brings connections. I'm sure ticket sales will rise if they allow fans next year, because I'm sure people are not going to want to after Howie Roseman. But you're getting a hometown player. What more could you really want if the Eagles?
Yeah, and 43 catches, 770 yards, 12 touchdowns, over 17 average in 8 games. And also, he had no drops. I think it was like 65 targets. No drops. And the other thing, which is very interesting, is when the season starts, he's going to be 20 years old. He turns 21 on October 6th. So he'll be 20 the first, 4 weeks of the season. So he's super, super young too. It's not like he's not like he's a 23-year-old,
right,
5th year senior that's coming out. He's 20 years old. So he's super, super young as well. So that's, he has the measurables and everything. And it kind of sucks that, there's no combine to be able to see him actually, work out, run, all that kind of stuff, go through the drills, everything like that, see his quickness and everything there. But it's just he's a tantalizing prospect. You watch
Right.
the film, it opens your eyes even more. If you just see Kyle Pitts tight end, you're like, we don't need another tight end. But when you put the film on and you watch him play, and you watch him, you're like, okay. And like, I had a little bit of a comparison for him. I had a comparison to Vincent Jackson, rest his soul.
Mm-hmm.
But that's who I kind of, thought, a bigger guy. He was 6'5", 235 or so when he came out of Northern Colorado. And Kyle Pitts is around the 6'5", 6'6" range, 240, 242, I think, around there. There's nothing exact right now, but it's almost the same build. I know a lot of people said the whole, the catch, like some of his catches and everything measured up to kind of like looking like a Megatron or whatever like that. I'm not gonna go that far, but the Vincent Jackson could be a comparable thing, but Pitts just makes so many plays, and you just you put him on against. It's not like he's playing low level competition. He's playing good, good teams.
Playing in the SEC.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no other way to say it. He's playing in the SEC and he's having incredible success.
And there, I think it was. I think he actually went up against Surtain, and he beat him a few times, pretty handily in that. I think it was the SEC championship game. But it's just, I understand fans and what they basically the whole. He's a tight end. You can't use him. Why? You already have Dallas Goedert. You're getting rid of Ertz. Why are you doing that? But it's more to that. It's more of the getting the playmaker for your quarterback who, as it looks right now, everything is Jalen Hurts. So you get him a playmaker that he can, spread the ball to. And the other thing was when Jalen Hurts was on Alabama, he targeted O.J. Howard a ton. And Bama used O.J. Howard a number of ways. And someone, brought that up also about Kyle Pitts and how him and Pitts could be how he used O.J. Howard at Alabama. But to me, it's if he's there, Jamar Chase is gone and he's there, I pull the trigger. That's just me.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, totally agree. I mean, I think is a generational talent. I've not said that about the last time I said that was obviously Saquon a few years ago. But before Saquon, I can't really tell you the last time I said generational player. Kyle Pitts is a generational player, in my opinion. I'm watching film on him right now, a couple different things. He makes everybody around him better. He made Kyle Trask look like a good quarterback.
Yeah.
There was one play against Texas A&M that was thrown 2 feet over his head that Kyle Pitts was able to grab because he has such a long reach, and he turned it into 20 yards. He took an incomplete pass and turned it into 20 yards. But again, everyone wants, because there's the tight end next to his name, can't forget about that. He's a tight end. So I started looking at his blocking, and that's apparently his only weakness. And I'm not seeing a weakness in his blocking either. He's not a great blocker. He's not an elite blocker, but he's willing to block. And I think that's a task you can't really teach a player. You can't teach a player to want to do something. He wants to get involved in the play. He wants to dig his feet in. He wants to make blocks. He makes blocks. He helps the runners get a few extra yards. One of Miles Sanders' biggest issue was he never had blocking last season. We got Kyle Pitts. You have a blocker. And you get a player like Kyle Pitts who's as elite ball catcher in this draft as anybody. He's willing to block the ball. He's going to be involved in every single play. He's going to be a difference maker on every single play. Even if we're passing, he's going to manipulate the defense. I was watching one play against Missouri, and he lines up as a blocker, but then he takes out in a vertical run, and the whole defense starts freaking out because they have a one-on-one situation with Kyle Pitts, and they know it's game over. Lo and behold, the original play wasn't even supposed to go to him. They had a wide open receiver on the other side of the field, but everyone was so freaked out because Kyle Pitts was one-on-one that they forgot about the wide open receiver on the other side of the field.
Yeah, and that's something that he could do. Now, I understand if a team like Carolina or Denver, and there's a quarterback still available, and they want to trade up with you, there's a slight possibility he could be there at 8 or 9 if you were to trade down. But it's not 100%, especially if Jamar Chase is gone. Devontae Smith is still there for some teams. So it's interesting, but if you're Harry Roseman, are you going to take that risk to possibly trade down and draft him at 8 or 9 and get an extra pick?
Mm-hmm.
That I don't know. To me, that's why there's a lot of. I know there's the whole Trey Lance, Justin Fields about the Eagles being interested in a quarterback, and it kind of segues us to the Eagles traded their starting quarterback of the last 5 years, Carson Wentz. I don't think that they're going to go quarterback. I'll put it as for me, I'm 100% definite they're not picking a quarterback with this pick, because you do that. That's Harry Roseman saying that he was wrong last year to pick Jalen Hurts in the second round. The Eagles don't say we're wrong, especially when it comes to draft picks. They try and get, you watch guys, Shelton Gibson and Rasul Douglas and all these Donnell Pumphrey, all these guys they drafted to try to give J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He's the biggest example. He should have been cut last year, and they're still trying to get what they can get out of him. So for me, I say it's absolutely they're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round.
No, definitely not. I don't think they take a quarterback at 6. I think it's extremely foolish. I get Jalen Hurts is far from a perfect product. He's not elite quarterback yet. He's 22 years old. He played 4 games last season. Eagles weren't a good football team last season. Yeah, he went 1-3, 1-4 in the games he played. He played very well for what he was handed to him last year. Played really, really well. He has a new coach. He has new quarterbacks coach. Press Taylor was not a good quarterbacks coach. Brian Johnson is a very good quarterbacks coach, really good offensive-minded person. Really has an opportunity. I think they got to invest in Jalen Hurts at this point. You have to get back up later in the draft, undrafted free agents. You can't give up on Jalen Hurts after 4 games. And 4 games that he played not great, but he didn't play horrible. Didn't play as bad as Carson.
Yeah, and as you see, he's already working at a QB takeover or something like that it's called with Quincy Avery. He's really working at his craft, which is great to see. And bringing us back to the Wentz trade, what was your feeling on the compensation aspect of what the Eagles got? So they got a 2021 third round pick, and they got a 2022 second that could turn into a first. With 75% of the plays or 70% of the plays, and the Colts make the playoffs. So what was I know there's a lot of reaction to the trade and the compensation. What was your reaction on that?
I think the Eagles should be happy with what they got. Especially after the season Carson had, especially whoever was saying that the Eagles want a Matthew Stafford type deal. I'm sure the Colts played hardball, and they had every right to. I think they got, definitely the player he is, especially after 2017, that great season. He didn't have a good season. He played horrendous. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in football last year. So to think Eagles were going to get a first-round pick this year, I just could not see it. If we were to get a first-round pick this year, I was going to be like, we won this trade. Howie Roseman, just fleeced the Colts. I've never said that in my life, that Howie Roseman had a good deal like that. I think we got a fair trade out of it. Will Carson play 75% of the snaps next year? Big if. Not to say he's injury prone, but he very much well could get hurt week 1. He very much well could get benched week 12. I think we got a good deal out of it. It's not great. It's not probably what fans wanted, but after the season he had, we should be happy that we got anything for him.
Yeah, and there was reports that, Chicago didn't offer anything. Panthers weren't interested. So if you have a team like the Colts, who are the only ones that are interested in, their GM is very smart, Chris Ballard, knows that. He's not going to offer you, what you want, 2 firsts or a first round pick and a mid round pick. He's not going to do that. So what you got, and that's where I understand you gave up so much, and I understand that you hoped it was a lot more, but you have to wait and see what this 3rd round pick is. You have to wait and see who 2022, what it turns out to be, because you don't know yet. And the other thing that, I brought up was I think it was the last 3 times. So Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, and RG3. Last 3 times teams traded basically a king's ransom to go up and get a quarterback in the top 2. And it didn't work out. It didn't work out with RG3. It didn't work out with Goff. It didn't work out with Wentz. History tells you it doesn't really work out. I know earlier, years and years ago, Vic with the Atlanta and San Diego traded to get Vic. Again, they didn't win a Super Bowl. He was a little bit better of a player in terms of his time there, but it just doesn't work out when you give up all that, all those picks. It just doesn't work out. And history has shown you the last 3 times, none of those 3 players are with their teams yet anymore. So
no, I mean you're right. Trading up for Wentz was a huge mistake. I guess I won't say much huge mistake. Obviously,
it just didn't turn out to what you
happen.
thought it was going to turn out.
He wasn't the long-term franchise quarterback we all thought and hoped. He brought the Super Bowl to Philadelphia in 2017. I know the narrative is Nick Foles won all the games, playoff games. Carson Wentz is part of the reason why. Everyone thought, he's a long-term solution. We found our franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. Obviously didn't work out. We traded 5 picks to get him. We're only getting 2 in return. We're 2 different time frames. 2016 and 2021 are 2 different times. Both franchises, all the franchises involved are at different parts. I'm happy that, this whole saga is over, from him demanding a trade to Doug Peterson getting fired to him still wanting out to hearing reports that neither of them talked for 8 weeks. I'm kind of relieved that this is all over. Eagles can start now focusing on Jalen Hurts, getting him better, getting him weapons. I think that's the best thing for everybody, is just to start looking towards the future. Don't talk about what if What if Carson never tore his ACL? What if there's better play calling? What if? Just focus on the future for right now. Focus on Jalen Hurts. He's the only quarterback on our roster at the moment. Our only quarterback. We got to focus on him. We got to surround him with weapons.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. So, like I said, time will tell when it comes to that. Wrap it up a little bit here, but I want to thank you for coming on, discussing a little bit of Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, and then talking to Kyle Pitts as a fit for the Eagles. If you haven't, make sure you check out Adam's article on aatbirds.com and check out. There's a lot of good pieces and a lot of good articles on the website. They're pumping out tons of content, so that's great. So make sure you check that out. If you're interested in wanting to join the team, you always send any one of us, myself, Phil, Jeff, or Chip, either a message or an email, anything like that. We'll be happy to talk to you. I want to throw out a few people that help support us. The Athletes Hub, you can follow them at Athletes Hub, and also Statement Games, you can follow them at Statement Games. But like I said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you guys checking in with us. I know it's not our normally scheduled time. We will be back next Saturday. Well, this upcoming Saturday. It's not next Saturday. It's upcoming Saturday, 9 o'clock. Have something interesting we're going to kind of put together. Not 100% sure yet if we want to go with it, but that'll probably be out either Monday or Tuesday, what we're going to be doing. But like I said, Adam, I want to thank you. You can follow Adam at AAMac1234. Be sure to check him out. He puts out great content. And Any parting words? Anything you want to say?
Get on the Kyle Pitts train. Get on it now while you still can. But thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Super excited to write for you guys, and go Birds.
Go Birds.